All right, hello again. So I received my straight restrictor fittings from Tom. Again, awesome service. He just mailed them to me. And I put the one in for the manifold pressure here in cylinder 3. And somewhere in there, underneath this wrench, is the one for the oil pressure. Right there. So those are straight. They make my hoses line up good. And I just like the way this was designed to flow around the oil cooler scat tubing. And I think today's project's gonna be, I put these in already and I couldn't find any significant torque spec. The best I could come up with is in another builder's video of putting these in hand tight and then turning them 1.5 to 2.5 turns. So, or 1.5 to 3 turns, I think. So I put them in about 2.25 turns, and they seem to be really snug. I think I'm gonna put the Loctite 567 thread sealant on those as well. Put these in, basically just organize some of these hoses. I did put some sleeving over this, but I was reading in the 40. So this is the CHT and EGT sensor wires. But then I was reading somewhere back here in the good old 4313 that you shouldn't put sleeving on this except basically where absolutely necessary. So this is kind of more for aesthetics. It just goes from here to there, so I might take that off again. It is all wire laced inside, so I got my merit badge in doing that. I got all the wires run along there, secured with cable clamps, wire ties in the rubber boot. And yeah, just kind of chipping away at this, trying to make it look good. Kind of a productive day, kind of an unproductive day. That blue AN fitting going into the oil cooler, for some reason, like I had it in already, when I went to pull it out, it felt like it was cross-threaded, and when I went to put it back in, she didn't want to go. So I ordered a tap. I know I don't want to get any shavings inside the oil cooler, and some new fittings, so hopefully I can save it, because I already looked it up. That thing's like 500 bucks. What else? I shortened this tube a little bit just so it sits a little bit better. I put a cable clamp on here with the hose and the wire tie. Finally tightened those. Put some torque seal on there. Same thing up there. Worked on these. I put the fire sleeving in for that. I'm still waiting for more wires there. Same thing here. Tightened all of the oil injector lines for the smoke system. Kind of went underneath here. I don't know if I talked about it, but I put a fire sleeve on the entire harness going under here, which holds it together real nice, and then wire tied it at the ends, and hopefully that'll hold it in. It's one that you can open and close, so the wires come out in their respective areas. This fuel hose is kind of wonky. This is the one that comes from the throttle servo. I put a P-clamp here just to try and keep it off of the exhaust. I'm trying to keep it as far away from the exhaust as possible. One idea I had was running it down here, but it's even closer to the exhaust. So I'm not sure. Like, this is gonna be hot coming here. I don't know if this would be cooler coming from way over there. Again, it's an easy change. Got these in, got this in. I kept scraping my hand on this, so I 45'd that. Cut these hose clamps to the right size. Anyway, just a whole bunch of little detail work with looks like nothing, but definitely kept me busy for the day. But pretty much getting there. But for now, good night. Waiting for my hub spacer to come back, the prop spacer, waiting for the panel. Hopefully George will have that soon. And I ordered some bolts. These bolts down here I had to do a little more research, but these are the bolts that it comes with that hold the carbon fiber airbox, and I guess the aluminum would be the same size. I do have the gasket in there, but as you can see, there's interference if you move the throttle lever. So I actually did order some AN bolts with the holes in the head that are a little bit shorter. I ordered the ones that are about 1/2 inch, maybe just a hair bit more, where these are 3/4. So hopefully those will go in there, and then I'll put the safety wire on it, and that'll fix that problem, because I never found the lock washers that I needed, that I was missing. The air filter is very loose in here, so I'm gonna figure out, you know, something to tighten that up so all the dirt doesn't just fly over the top of it. And I still got to address this issue. This is the oil injector line for the left side, and my idea was just to drill a hole in here and mount it, but I don't know if I want to drill a hole in this bracket. Kind of thinking about it. I mean, this thing's stout as can be, but until I get the throttle cables and all that in permanently, I'm kind of holding off on that. But curious to see what other people did with that fuel line. All right, like I said, good night. I'm babbling. Boring video. All right, I found the right tap. It's a 3/8-18 MPT pipe tap, and that worked perfectly for that. So I was able to salvage the botched threads. Now it threads in equally on both. So I'm happy about that. Don't have to buy a new oil cooler. Just hope it doesn't leak. And yeah, the hardest part was finding out what thread it was, but that did the trick. I also ordered these. They came in. So if you remember, the airbox had these plain screws, like these Home Depot looking screws in it, and this one ended up bottoming out. It goes into the casing here, like I could never tighten it. I didn't force it. And this one over here protruded to the point that as this hits the very bottom, it actually made contact with that. So I didn't feel comfortable with that because it stuck out that much. So I never found the lock washers that the instructions called for. So I ended up buying, that's the MS number for the bolts. And then I bought some lock washers and some plain washers for the AN Force 2. And I think I'm gonna put all of it on there and safety wire it. And that is that, unless somebody tells me not to. Next, I'll be working on these things. These are the Lightspeed ignition wires, and they actually need to go to the battery directly. So I bought a couple of fusible links. These are 20 gauge onto a 18 gauge wire. You are supposed to go 4 sizes below, but Lightspeed kind of gives you the feeling that they don't want any fuses at all because of points of failure. So I think putting a 20 gauge fusible link is okay. I did do an 18 gauge fusible link onto an 18 gauge wire and short circuited, and it smoked before the wire did. So I'm confident that this will be better than nothing, and if we have a direct short for some reason going through the firewall, at least we have some kind of protection. There you have it, a couple of drilled head bolts, safety wired in. Oh, got a telephone call. So this one just protrudes a little bit, like maybe a thread or so, but at least it doesn't hit the linkage. These ones are pretty much flush. I do have a thick washer in there. I suppose I could take out if that's an issue. And while I'm at it, I am priming the underside of this. Somebody had commented on a video, valid point, that if that aluminum is up against the carbon fiber, that there's corrosion issues. So doing that. These are the little things that go inside the propeller, and priming those too so I can glue all that together. All right, bunch of odds and ends. While I'm waiting for that paint to dry, I moved on to these things here, and I'm not sure if this is like the way they do it, but it worked I'm trying to separate the shield, which is the ground, from the inside power. So I just kind of back this up a little bit. Then poked a little hole in here, stretched them a little bit, try not to rip any. And finagle the inside wire out of there. Honestly, it does work. I just did it. There you go. So pulling that out. So this will go to the negative terminal of the battery. I'm going to put some heat shrink over it. And then this one I'm going to replace with the fusible link. Alright, so that's what I ended up with. A little hard to see now that it's done, but the black wires are basically the shielding ground wires covered in heat shrink, and they go to a terminal that I put through the boot and underneath the main terminal. Then I used one of those environmental connectors, but with dual wall clear heat shrink on the outside to these fusible links, labeled them, and then there's clear heat shrink over this as well. And that's going to go through the positive boot and connect underneath there. But at least we have some protection on that circuit. And yeah, I think that will work well. Back to the air intake. I ended up priming this so I can put it on here. But if you remember, I had a little bit of a gap. Like this is kind of loose in there. So I made a plastic ring to sit on the bottom. It's just an 1/8 inch ABS. I didn't want to use like foam tape or something to put it in there because I don't want it like deteriorate and get sucked in there. So I'm gonna play with this and see what that brings. Might be kind of hard to see, but that spacer worked out pretty nice. It's all tight. I'm gonna do some tests and see if it's affected by 100 low lead. And but I think it'll be okay. I got this back on. I ended up doing the alternate air cable as well, since I don't have the actual panel. I know all these got to come out. I'm dreading that, but I kind of just lined it up close to where I had the other ones. So I ran it through the firewall, secured it. You can still kind of move it with some fuel hose and wire tie clamps. Doesn't touch anything, and that comes down into here. And man, what else did I do? Oh, I put these things in. So I think I was showing earlier that I had made these little back plates on there, riveted them on. I used some Marine Tex to glue them on there as well, so they came out solid. I ended up putting truss head screws in because they look nicer. I have the same washers underneath, but I have some nylon washers on order. I'm going to look into the phasing of the engine and the ignition. Finish this, we already talked about that. Put some P-clamps here, some cushion clamps to hold the scat tubing for the battery cooling. And I did the same thing over here. I kind of wanted this just to look decent and not touch anything. I've looked at some other builds and they all seem to be wrapped around the exhaust. This is on the intake intake manifold, which is cooler. And I think I did something else. I'm trying to remember. Hold on. Oh yeah, I know what it was. I was playing with the oil cooler here and the fittings. I'm trying to figure out why they were off. They're definitely AN816-8D. That's what it calls for this fitting in the RANS manual. But I didn't even open it. But the AN side, that looks proper, but the other side is way too big. So Wix has better prices, but I think this is the second time out of 2 orders that they messed something up on me, and ended up ordering the same one from Spruce. It's supposed to be here Wednesday, and hopefully they fit. Either that or I just don't know how to order AN fittings. So anyway, I'm going to end the video here. It's kind of been one of those days or weekends where worked a lot, but not really sure what I did. A lot of odds and ends, but really just getting ready to take a look at the cowl. Again, I'm hesitant to do the cowl until I have the boot cowl in, which I'm not going to be able to put in until I put the panel in, and so on and so forth. But there's some trimming. Maybe I can get kind of a jump start on it. All right, happy building. Thank you for watching. Please watch the other videos too. And again, this is just me doing it. No instructions. Got it? Good night.